Howie, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just here quarantining myself. I know you're in, I think Maryland, right? So,
Mhm.
how's the whole quarantine situation going on where you're at?
I mean, we're not. It's nice to see that we're not like national news. Yeah, I mean, it's the governor. He made it is making everybody stay home. Um, I mean, there's still people out doing essential things,
Yeah,
post office, grocery store, stuff like that. But so far so good. I mean, really, I, I haven't been to the gas station. I don't know how long. It's like you're not using gas. It's
yeah.
like you don't have gas. But yeah, it's been great. Just try to the kids are home. We're doing the homeschooling thing at the moment, and suddenly we're teachers, which is really
Yeah,
weird. I've mentioned that a few times on my podcast.
yeah,
Just I always, before I'll say it again. Like I've always thought that teachers were so important and they should be getting paid a lot more. And it's never been more true. Like
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of parents are feeling that way these days.
I'm curious because I know I've listened to a lot of your podcast, man. I'm almost caught up with it. You have over 100 episodes on it, and you talk about like health and eating right. And I know you mentioned a lot like sugar's bad for you and stuff like that. So, what's your diet like right now? Because I know a lot of people are cooped up in their homes, and like me, I'm eating a lot of junk food. I'm trying not to, but so I'm just curious for you, how's it going with your diet and eating habits?
That's one of my biggest uh, bugaboos is me not uh, practicing what I preach sometimes. Like
Yeah,
definitely quarantine time is a test for that.
yeah,
I have quite the sweet tooth. It is insatiable, and it's been really tough. Because I'll go to the store, and I'm the type that's I got two things on the list, and I come home with seven things.
oh yeah,
Spend $40 instead of $10, but because I'm buying like double stuffed Oreos and shit. Um, I we're trying to be good. Like I just started,
yeah.
kind of working out lightly again,
Mhm.
back into it. I haven't been in the gym in months, and then this was no help. And just when I thought I'm gonna go to the gym again, like, oh, you gotta stay home now, and the gym's closed.
Yeah.
So just been pulling out the all I have are 25-pound weights here, so I'm doing
Mhm.
that. Some uh, you know, body resistance stuff, just kind of no weights, push-ups, things like that. Yeah, the eating I've been trying to jump back on the fasting, uh,
Mhm.
because for a couple of reasons, obviously it's good for you, but also I don't want to go to the grocery store as often.
Yeah.
It's at
Yeah.
least once or twice a week.
Yeah.
So the longer we can keep food in the house, produce is different, but the longer we keep food in the house, the less I have to go out. But so I don't know. I make food. I make lunch and dinner every day, and feeding the kids and everybody. And I try to have leftovers and stretch it out. Um, yeah, but the sweet tooth thing, like ice cream,
Yeah.
and you go, I'm not going to do it tonight.
Yeah.
You get the kids to bed, and it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock. You're like, I'm going to watch a show, and I'm going to get some ice cream. It's
Yeah.
like it's the worst. How about yourself? You said you were.
Not so much for sugar, but I need salty snacks, man. And I eat a lot of peanuts, like salty peanuts, but I'm a big fan of kettle chips. Like that's my weakness. So every time I go to the grocery store and I'm covered up, I have my gloves and my mask, but I see those kettle chips and they're not like family size, they're just like one person, but they're a big bag. Especially if you've ever had Zapp's kettle chips, they're more of like southern style chips. But I'll just grab those bag of chips and I'll just eat it throughout the whole time I'm shopping. I'm still I can't contain myself. Like I can't wait till I go home with these chips. I have to eat it on the spot.
That's next level right there, bro.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, my weakness is salty stuff. Like I'll have the sugar cravings every once in a while, but yeah, my weakness is salt. Like I need something salty by the end of the day.
Yeah, I got those pretzels that have peanut butter stuff in them.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, those are great.
yeah. That's my weakness, man. I've had buckets of those, and I can't keep those in my home because if I have it and I'm not doing anything and I'm stuck in my home, those are gonna be gone quick.
It's awful, man. The vices that we have as humans, the those insatiable cravings, and it's the temptation. It's so hard to
Yeah.
say no and discipline yourself, And when I was doing, it's so long ago now. It was like over a year and a half ago. I was I was fasting. I was intermittent fasting for a month, pretty much through November and like Thanksgiving and all that. Um, and what's great about fasting is that you can eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, you want to try to eat healthy, if you can, and the things that you do eat, you want it to be somewhat good for you, not a bunch of.
Mhm.
But it was great because like I usually skip breakfast anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people don't realize that they're fasting. They just if you stop eating at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, maybe your last snack or whatever it was, watching your show,
Yeah.
and then you don't eat until lunch the next day, you're basically fasting.
Mhm.
And what I was doing was doing the 16 to 8. So I wouldn't eat for 16 hours, and then I would have a window. You don't
Mhm.
eat the entire 8 hours, but you basically like put your meals in that window, and then you cut it off. So like if I finish, some days I would finish dinner. We have dinner relatively early, anywhere between like 4 and 5:30 typically is dinner.
Mhm.
So every now and then I would eat dinner and I'd be done at 5:30. That's my last meal, and it
Yeah.
got to the point where I wasn't even thinking about food. I was full,
Mhm.
and I didn't care to eat snacks and stuff anymore at late. And then I wouldn't eat until lunch the next day. I mean, some days I was getting 18, 19, 20 hours of not eating.
Oh wow.
And some people that like that don't understand it, they think like, oh, you're starving yourself. And it's like, no, you're not. Like
Yeah.
your body will let you know when it's time to eat, and you need a certain caloric intake daily, but it's not what we've been told by like the food industry.
Mhm.
That's all. I mean, how convenient is it? Oh, you need it every 2 hours. No, you don't. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
man, your body's not built for that. Like, that's why a lot of people are fat and, you know, and unhealthy. And like,
Yeah.
uh, obesity and all that, it causes inflammation, and like inflammation leads to all kinds of different diseases,
Mhm.
So you think about that, and it's like, um, when you can really wrap your head around what it's doing to your body, it makes it a little easier to kind of stay away.
Mhm.
When I had a when I years ago, we were in Denver, we were on the road, and my throat was like, I kept getting like sore throats and
Mhm.
messed up, and I was like, had some blood in there. I was like kind of coughing, had some
Yeah.
blood. I
Yeah.
was worried. So I saw an ENT out in Denver, and they did the whole scope thing. They put it like in my nose, and
Oh
like,
wow.
yeah, it was wild. I'm like choking, coughing, and stuff, and it was like the worst experience.
Yeah.
Um, but she showed me the video. She let me go home with the video. I still have it.
Oh wow.
What my vocal cords look like. It's
Uh
wild.
huh.
And she's like, "Oh, look right there. So right there where it's like pinkish, kind of reddish,
Mhm.
is from you. Basically, every time you cough or clear your throat, like like that,
Mhm.
you're causing your vocal cords to smash together
Oh wow.
really hard,
Mhm.
and that creates fatigue, and you can damage them.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so yeah, so like one of the things you can do, instead of like, you'll hear me do it a lot. Like, well, uh, I'll be on especially on my podcast, because I'm just talking for an hour, but you'll hear me.
Yeah.
I'll go like that, like a
Hmm.
heavy. You breathe out really heavy, like
Yeah.
fast and hard, and that's a softer way to clear your throat. Which, God, I need to do it right now. Jesus Christ! But like, that's a softer way to clear your throat instead of going like that.
Mhm.
When if you've ever had like, uh, you've had a cold and you're coughing constantly and your
Yeah.
throat starts hurting and all that stuff, it's because you're damaging your vocal cords.
Hmm.
So what I was getting at was, I was able to see what it's actually doing. Like, whoa, those are my vocal cords, and
Yeah.
look like I'm gonna stop coughing like that and clear my throat. Of course, I still do from time to time, but for the
Yeah.
most, I do that fast, heavy exhale.
Mhm.
It's so you can apply that to your eating habits and things, and just they say you are what you eat. It's a very true statement. It's like I'll eat stuff and like I'll feel so bad 20 minutes later.
Mhm.
And some people don't think about that. Some people just go, oh, I'm so full. And it's like that's because your body didn't need all that food inside of it.
Yeah, yeah.
When you Thanksgiving and stuff is one thing. It's okay to do that stuff, obviously, from time to time and enjoy yourself, have, pleasure and all that. But people that just cram food in their face
Yeah.
all long, it's not good.
Yeah. There's so much temptation out there, man. It's hard. Even I'm prone to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, eating the chips before you buy them, bro. You just like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't do that.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: I fast throughout the whole morning, and when I save it for my grocery shopping, and then
Yeah, well, that's great too. Like you do that, I would find myself. I wouldn't be as hungry. Like I wasn't. My body, and this is literally 2 to 3 days after I started. This
Mm,
wasn't even it didn't take me a month to get this. I only did it for about a month, like every day.
mhm,
It only takes a couple days. You really just I've had people say, I gotta eat. It's like, no, you don't. You don't. That's you
mm,
think you have to eat. That you're in that habit. You are totally capable. The body is amazing. The human.
mhm.
You really are capable of doing this. It's a more of a mind over matter type of thing, and just get over yourself and just
Yeah.
try a few days. You'll get used to it. And I wasn't hungry. I wasn't even thinking about food. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm you wouldn't know it to look at me, but I got like a dad bod. I'm a little doughy. I have a little bit of a belly going on,
Yeah,
when I let
yeah.
myself go. But I was dropping pounds and just feeling good. I felt good every
Mhm.
day. Eat late, and then you get up the next morning. You may not even notice it until you start fasting, and then when you stop again, which was what I did, and then
Mhm.
I went back to the old habits. I would feel terrible the next morning, and now I notice it. Even from then, like I still notice it. If I eat
Mhm.
10, 11 o'clock at night, and then the next morning I can just tell, like, I mean, I'm not bent over in pain or anything, but you can just feel like,
Yeah.
is this what most people feel like every?
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt great, man. It was so I need to get back to it. I've just been really the quarantine thing's been a test.
Oh yeah. Howie, I gotta admit something to you. I'm a big Ballyhoo fan, and I've gone through all your albums, or I binge your guys' music, and I have to say my personal favorite album is the Girls album. The band came out with the EP Fighter, which is an amazing album, and your band has had EPs out before, but this is the EP that you have with the most music on it. So I'm just curious of why did you all come out with this EP instead of waiting for a full-length album?
First, thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's having people that listen to the music and support the way they do. It's you can't ask for anything more. It's huge. And the the volume of people that listen, we're just grateful for it. It
Mhm.
changes our lives in a way that we don't have to work regular jobs, and um, I'm very thankful. So thank you very much. Yeah, you know we live in an interesting time um, where streaming is king, and
Mhm.
there are, I think, expectations and tradition are sort of just being uh, it's everything's up in the air and just sort of bands are trying different things, getting experimental as far as
Mhm.
like, how they release things. I think that uh, albums are still valuable. I don't mean like a CD. CDs are valuable in a different way these days. They're more like merch, something as a collectible thing. Nobody's listening.
Mhm.
But an album, a whole work of songs, um, whether it's themed or whatever, you think of an album as like a time capsule. It's like
Yeah.
I can look back at our old albums and think about what was going on during those times, during those sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the songs were written, things like that, why they were put on the record, and that's great. Uh, but now things are, people don't expect a full album as much as they used to,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have your super fans that want that collection of songs, and I fully believe in that. But it's just so easy to release a song next week. You know, um,
Yeah.
and the power is in our hands more than it ever has been as artists. We are in full control, and um, you need to let go of the old ways, the old world. Of when I started the band, I've been through several iterations of the music industry, and when I started the band, it was more about making records, pressing a CD. This was the '90s.
Yeah.
Pressing a CD. If you pressed a CD, you were doing shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was expensive, and it wasn't easy to pay for studio time.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the CD. It's getting the studio time
Yeah.
was expensive in its own, and then you do some promo, and then you release the record later that year or whatever. Um, but now it's just like there's singles, and I forgot what the number was, tens of thousands of songs released a day, or a week or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and for the main reason that getting to your question finally, the main reason that I decided that we should put these songs together was because it's actually, I wanted to have one place for people to listen, because singles can get kind of out of hand and all over the place. And when people are driving, most people are like running, or they're driving or doing something, and they can't be all like this, looking, trying to
Yeah.
steer in traffic and like find.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's better to have everything in one place
Mm-hmm.
instead of, okay, that was cool, and I'm going to go back and listen to the other single they released.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was one thing. The other thing was because I'd read a book by a guy named Mike Warner. It's not a very long book. It's only like 70 pages, 80 pages, and he does updates and things like that. And it's basically about how to take advantage of Spotify, because Spotify, everyone knows it's the leader in playlisting, and
Yeah.
it can really break some bands. And I'm sorry, it's work hard, playlist hard. My bad. Sorry, Mike. Work hard, playlist hard.
Okay.
And anyway, one of the things he said in there was that there was a band, I think it was the Chainsmokers that did it. They started doing this sort of a waterfall type of approach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they realized that you can put out a release. So you put out a single. So like last year, for instance, we did Renegade. We released it back in
Yeah.
May of 2019.
Awesome song.
Thank you. And then we released Dark Sunglasses and California King on the Sounds of Summer. I think it was just 2 songs. And then it got time to put out Fighter. And I was like, you know what? After reading this book, let's take Fighter and not just release it on its own. Let's put the previous 3 singles underneath it. And we won't push it as, here's a new EP, here's a new album, whatever.
Yeah.
A collection of songs. It was just, we were pushing Fighter. That was it. It was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
Fighter's coming out. But then when you get it, or you pre-order or whatever, you see, oh shit, these other songs are on here. That's cool.
Yeah.
And what that does is, and are you artists out there? Pay attention. It creates new life for those previous songs.
Hmm.
So you're working this other song, but all the while, the other 3 songs on this, or whatever, however many are on there, are getting listened to again. They're picking up streams. So we pushed Fighter for a while, and then all of a sudden you've got Dark Sunglasses, California King, and Renegade,
Mm-hmm.
and they started creeping back up into our top 10 on Spotify
Oh, okay.
in a week or two. Right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this does work.
Yeah.
And That was something I learned from Mike's book, Work Hard, Playlist Hard. Um, and it was probably the most valuable thing that I learned, and the one I put into practice the most. And so I'm really looking forward to everything. You know, most likely, if we're not putting out an album, traditionally, we're going to do the same thing on the next thing. You know, so we have another
Yeah.
song come out. It's going to have Fighter and the other 3 songs on it, and so on. And our plan right now, we were talking about wanting to do a record for the summer, but record's not going to be likely.
Mhm.
But we are going to release more songs.
Okay.
So we're in the process of recording right now. We've been just kind of working on it, but I don't want to rush it. I want the songs to be good, and I'm
Yeah.
not just shit out just to put it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we have a handful of songs that I'm really excited about that I would love for the people to hear. So
Oh man, can't wait. So I just want to make a side note for our listeners that yeah, definitely listen to the wisdom that Howie Spangler is teaching. I'll be honest, like I listened to your podcast, and like I said, you have over 100 episodes, and I'm trying to catch up. But there's a lot of things I know it's primarily to help people start a band and for musicians, but honestly, I've learned a lot from like since I started my the YouTube series and do all the socials like the Instagram, and I mean it all for me it cross promotes each other, and even this podcast like I've learned a lot from just developing and marketing and just using the same information that you're teaching to musicians. I've applied it to my own stuff. So yeah, for listeners, like this is a wealth of knowledge that we're getting right now.
oh man, thanks, dude. Yeah, it's pretty much. I was just like, you know what? Because I'd wanted to start a podcast for a while before I did the first episode. Probably like a year and a half, 2 years. I was
Hmm.
like, I should do that, you know. And Brandon from Bumpin' Uglies was like, "You're like a well of knowledge, bro. Like you
Yeah.
should do some with that." And I was like, "All right, I'll just." You know, I'm thinking to myself, like, no one wants to hear me talk for an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Who's gonna listen to that?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck it. I'll record myself talking about starting a band, maybe things I would have done differently or
Yeah.
things I would apply to it, you know, starting a band for a new band.
Yeah.
And I just did like a 20-minute episode or a 30-minute episode and got some great feedback. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got excited. I got
Yeah.
excited. It drove me. I was like, oh shit. I started cranking them out.
Yeah. Yeah. You did.
Yeah. And the cool thing was, here's another thing that people need to learn is that like it is so important. It's not so much about how it looks, how it sounds. It's more important that you just do it in the first place.
Hmm.
You have to be pro. Don't wait for that, you know, to get $600 to buy one of these the roadcaster
Yeah. Yeah.
to make it sound amazing, or you know, like I just have this stuff, you know. But it's been
Hmm.
years building this, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm still every now and then I'll put out a pod. I'm like, oh, it didn't sound as good. I gotta work on that, you know.
Hmm.
The cover art is completely different than it was for like the first like 20 episodes. It was just I went online because I'm a very like what's the word spontaneous type of person when it comes to like creativity.
Hmm.
I can't wait. Like I'll just be like, fuck it, go live, do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and I'll be like, oh, I need to get cover art for this. I didn't have cover art for it yet, so I
Hmm.
just went on to like some royalty-free site and picked a beach scene with palm trees on it, and that was the first cover. And I
Okay.
font and just threw it on there. I wanted like a sexy-looking font, Tales from the Green Room,
Hmm.
and that was it. And I just learned every time. And then like if you listen to those first episodes, they don't sound as great, you know. And it just you work into it and you figure out what works best, and you get your flow and your process. And you know, and that goes for podcasts, it goes for a YouTube channel, it goes for anything. If you're making videos, you know, you can use your phone. You don't need to go buy a Canon DSLR. You don't need to
Yeah.
do. I just started live streaming like legitly with the camera. You don't need that. You can do it with your phone. It's
Hmm.
all these apps are free, you know. um, it's just that is the biggest takeaway I would like people to learn, you know. From if you feel like you want to create something, you know, you got it in you, um, just go for it. Don't
Yeah.
don't wait.
One thing I like that you say a lot in your podcast, and I think I've seen probably an interview you saying this, but I'm paraphrasing here, but like basically that's what I hear in my head. It's like, don't give a fuck what anybody thinks or says. Just do it. If this is something you want to do or your dream, just do it. Don't even care what, like, just anything or what people think or say. Just do it.
It's I get fired up talking about this stuff. It's that's
I
why
can
I
tell, man.
loud. But like I'm just passionate. Like that's one of the things I learned. I will say that Gary Vee is one of the guys that he's like the guy, like that really got
Yeah.
me, pushed me to do the podcast. So I'm talking about Anchor
Hmm.
One. That's the platform I use to create or to upload my stuff, distribute. Um, and if you're not following Gary Vee and you've got a dream and you're not doing anything with it, you need to follow this guy.
Hmm.
And so I got stoked, and basically, yeah, I mean, I learned that from him. I mean, I already kind of figured it out, but like he just really like drove it home. It's like one of the biggest reasons that we don't do that thing that we want to do is because we're worried about what other people are going to say about
Yeah.
it. What's my brother going to think? What's my
Yeah.
parents going to say? Like, I don't want to go to college. I want to start a cooking show on YouTube,
Yeah.
and they're going to be like, "That's fucking ridiculous!" Like your parents would
Yeah.
say, "Like, no."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, no, like we don't live in a one size fits all. We're not a one size fits all type of species, man.
Hmm.
There's fundamentals for everything. There's a common denominator with a lot of things, but there's no, you know, yes, finish school, finish high school, do that,
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily need a college degree. I don't need a college degree to learn how to do a podcast, man,
Yeah.
or to talk about experience. One of the things he said was, some people go to college and young people talk to him about, I thought about just going to college, just get the experience. And he's,
Hmm.
why would you waste tens of thousands of dollars of your parents' money, most likely,
Hmm.
just going for the experience of college? Take
Yeah.
that money and go to Europe, like do some
Yeah. Travel. Yeah.
travel. Like that's how you get experience. Like, book smarts is one thing, but street smart is another
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You know, Getting out there and actually having experience and learning things the hard way,
Hmm.
can be a lot more valuable than, there's some people that go to college and they don't get the job that they majored for. They're not in the industry that they spent all that money on. And it's like, it's, and then they overcharge for books and things, and
Yeah.
it's just insane. And I'm not saying it necessarily needs to be like a free thing, but like it's insane how much they charge for this stuff. But
Yeah.
the expectation of like, well, this is how it goes, that cookie cutter. I'm against the cookie cutter lifestyle.
Hmm.
We all live in a sandbox. This is how it goes. I mean, that's what I say in the song Fighter, actually. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is how they say that this
Yeah.
is how it goes. This is how it goes. No, I'm not going to live like that. Like when I'm 90, and hopefully I'm not, hopefully I'm still healthy. So I'm going to try to keep fasting and not eat
Yeah.
all. Um, when I'm 90, man, I want to look back and be like, I'm so glad I did that. So glad. And I didn't start this pod until, 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was 37. It's like, it's never too late, bro. Like just because you turn 30 or you turn 40, it's
Hmm.
never too late.
Oh
So
yeah.
I just want people to know that, man. Just get fired up about what you want to do. Don't give a fuck about what anybody says about it.
Yeah.
Put you can live in your bubble and just make the things you want to make. And there's a market for everything. There
Hmm.
are minded people like you that are, doing a niche thing. Like you can talk about, dongles for the new Macs. Like, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
make a
Yeah.
career talking about, uh, shakers for
Yeah.
baby toys, like it's wild, so it's all possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Even like shakers, I'm sure that you can convince somebody out there to be entertained by that. There's a market for anything.
there's a market for anything. Some things may take longer to
Yeah.
pop. I mean, who I know they're out there. I don't know, but they're out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you just got to connect to them. And building a YouTube channel is incredibly hard. You got to be really committed to it, and you can't expect you can't think about making money. It's got to be something that you love and you just would do anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the trick. It's not. If you go into any of this thinking about money, you're going to be very disappointed because the money takes a long time to start happening. Um, it's but if you love it, if it's something that you really enjoy, then it's not work and you're not worried about the money. Obviously people need to make money. That's the
Mhm.
argument. Well, I got to make money, I got bills. Of course, man, of course.
Yeah.
Good. You got to get sleep. You don't need to sleep 8 or 9 hours every day.
Yeah.
That's not required. There's a book by Nick, I think it's Nick Littlehales. It's called Sleep. You should read that book. It's very, very wild. It'll retrain your brain on what you think about sleep.
Okay.
Yes, you have to get up and go to work in the morning, right? You got to
Mhm.
off at 4 or 5 o'clock. You get home. You got to get the kids. You got to make dinner. All those things. You got to do homework. All those things. You put the kids to bed. What do you do at 8, 9 o'clock when the kids are in bed? What do you do? Do you sit down, kick off your shoes, and you watch Netflix,
Mhm.
bowl popcorn or cookies? What do you do? Or are you going down to the basement or that room or sitting in your living room or in your kitchen and you're on YouTube live talking about recipes
Yeah.
or in the kitchen making something,
Yeah.
uh, working on your cooking abilities. I think trying different recipes. Like that is what it's all about. It's what are you doing with that spare time, even if it's only a couple hours. I know people that are nurses, that don't get sleep. They're on
Mhm.
call. That's a crazy, horrendous schedule.
Yeah.
But it just depends on how committed you are to the craft, and everybody gets tired. And like I said, you do need sleep, but it's really all up to you. And just know that you can take those extra hours to sleep or to sit with your family and watch a movie or something,
Mhm.
and that's fine. But it's going to take a little bit longer, for you to reach that goal. The more you spend time on this, uh, the 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 more things will happen, but the sooner it may come.
Yeah.
No guarantee on any of this, but um, you have to want it. And people say, "How do you get the time to
Mhm.
do all the things that you do?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I make the time. I
Yeah.
get up. I do that. I get up and I get my kids breakfast, and I'm like, "Everybody good? All right, cool." And I head down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just start working on stuff, and I work into the night a lot of nights. I still make time to make lunch and dinner for the kids and do homework. But as soon as everybody's good again, I'm back down here working, and that's how I have time to make all the content that I make. Um, when it comes to, I realized back in 2013, probably before that, that I was working at a restaurant. I was bartending and waiting table,
Mhm.
and I was like, man, this really takes a lot of time, like
Yeah.
out of my day. But I was in that weird
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I had like a 2-year-old at the time, and
Mhm.
I was really scared to. The thought of quitting my job was, I'd always thought about it. Who doesn't want to quit the job that they
Yeah.
hate?
Yeah.
Um, I was thankful to be in a situation where they'd let me go and I would come back and I'd still have a job. It was cool. I mean, you're a server, you're a bartender, you're not doing brain surgery. You're not,
Yeah.
like anyone can come in and do that. So they were hiring people all the time, but I was lucky and happy that they would bring me back. But I started thinking like, I could be. We went on tour with Authority Zero in 2013, and it was a great tour. It was like 6 weeks, summertime.
Mhm.
Came home and I was like, man, I just was out there doing this awesome thing and um, just doing what I love, and people were into it, singing along, and there's something happening. And
Mhm.
about to put out, or no, we did put out Pineapple Grenade, and it was like successful. It's like, and I'm gonna go back, and somebody's gonna complain that their soup is cold, or the breadsticks are hard, right? Or there's not enough humor in the ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah, you're like, I just wrote an awesome rock song that people love, and I got to go back to this. So,
I think, ego can be a good and a bad thing. And
yeah,
there's
yeah,
one of those moments where I felt like my ego was creeping in, and it was actually for the better, because it made me go, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore.
yeah, yeah,
I could be spending 12 to 14 hours pulling doubles and, serving people food and drinks, which is not, some people really enjoy that.
mm-hmm.
Um, or I could be spending 12 to 14 hours or more making music and honing my craft and, writing songs. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
I was like, all right. And I was at a point where we were making okay money. And it was sort of like, I wasn't exactly scared or freaked out. I was too excited about the idea of not working and being, just going head on into the music.
yeah, yeah,
So I just did it. I was like, all right. I let them know. I was like, I'm not coming back. Like, thank you guys so much.
mm-hmm.
This, and I just dove head first, and I started working on, I used that winter to like start really diving into how to record. And because the goal was to eventually one day make it so I could uh, record myself and record my band and
Yeah,
produce other bands and mix and things. And it takes years to really, with the time that I had, it takes years um, to achieve that, to be able to go, okay, I'm actually able to do this now. And some people learn quicker than others. And it took me several years, and finally we record ourselves, and it's all in-house these days. We don't need anyone else. So you're saving a bunch of money. The band's not spending 20 grand on a record anymore. I can do it. I do it pretty much for free, you know, um, for the band, and we get music out and whenever we want. So, it's just, if it's something that you want for yourself, it's up to you to decide, how drastic you want to be about it. But I knew by then, and this was 7 years after we started touring.
mm-hmm.
It took me 7 years of touring to go, I feel okay about quitting the job now.
Okay,
And the full-time thing you'd mentioned, like being full-time in a band, I was already full-time in a band.
yeah,
I've been full-time since we started the band in
yeah,
95.
yeah,
Maybe before that, because all I did was think. I'd be in biology class drawing flyers of me playing with, like, our band playing with my favorite bands,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you know, like, I'd have this whole ad mat drawn up, like, Saturday, June 26th, whatever,
yeah,
Bally,
yeah,
Green Day, Bush, Silverchair,
yeah,
Nirvana, and that's all I did. I just eat,
yeah.
sleep, breathe, live, bleed this band, you know.
So I want to go back a little when you mentioned about, starting this band and all that stuff. And you started this band pretty early, like I think around 15 or around that age with your brother Donald, who's the, yeah, yeah. And who's the drummer. Your brother Donald's also the drummer, and you started the band with him. And you have also Nick and Scott, who's in the band now, and they've been with you all for a while. So I'm just curious of how did Nick and Scott join the band?
Scott joined the band in 2000. I guess it's kind of wishy-washy, because we asked him to come play on our record. He was spinning records at the time. He was a DJ in the scene, in like the drum and bass scene,
Mm-hmm.
and he was really into hip hop and like 90s hip hop. So he had like battle records, and he was scratching, and at that time, scratching records on rock music was a big thing. Limp Bizkit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Limp Bizkit was huge at that point, and some other bands were doing it, and that kind of hip hop sound was being worked into rock music.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were we thought that was so cool, and we thought, like, I remember in '99 we actually had Jr. who became our bass player a few years later. He was spinning records too in the late '90s, and we asked him to come play a show at our high school. Um, and he was like the secret weapon. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, and I remember we played with this punk band called the Chaotix back then, and I think Subsist was there too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking this old shit. Local punk rock bands. And so we're playing the show, and we brought JR out to do some scratching on the turntables, and we worked out this whole song where it was just like kind of like a call and response thing with the band. It was really cool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
No one was doing it. No one in the area was doing that. So we did it, and everybody lost their minds, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this is cool. There's something to this, you know. Um, and so that next year, when we were recording our first album, 365 Day Weekend, we there were a couple tracks. I was like, this could be cool, like to have some scratching on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, because I've always had that Sublime approach to the writing when it comes to mixing the reggae and the punk and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of Brad Knoll had a lot of hip hop in him as well, so
Mm-hmm.
all that on the first records, and so I was like, it'd be cool to do something like that for this. So I think we had 2 songs on there that we invited him, and actually another guy, this guy Paul. They both played on that record, I think, and we just started asking him to come back for shows, to play shows in like 2000, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of stuck. He just stayed in the band. It was like never, I don't remember it ever being like, okay, you're in the band now. It's just sort of like,
Yeah.
all right, where should I be next weekend? That's shit like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it kind of stuck. Fast forward several bass players later, 2014,
Mm-hmm.
JR is ready to leave the band after 10 years. And he was very cool and stuck around till we found someone and kind of finished out his tenure, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And enough time for Nick to learn. And we did this kind of cool changing in the guard thing at JR's last show, where he played like half the show with us, and then Nick finished the show.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of like passed it off. So
Okay.
we got really drunk, passing around a bottle of Jameson on stage, and it was in Baltimore, and it was like the perfect moment,
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's there, and everybody knew it was Jared's last show. It was just a big one, and it
Hmm.
was emotional, and it was fun. It was great. It was all the things.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of passed it off to Nick, and then we finished out the show with Nick, and that was it. And Nick joined the band. So, yeah, it was. We've gone through some personnel changes over the years. Donald and I are the only constants, and then Scott's always been there for
Yeah.
20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's there's people, you get to a point, some people just don't have it in them anymore.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not gonna beg anyone to stay that doesn't want to be there, that doesn't create a good situation
Mm-hmm.
environment. I could tell that JR was kind of losing the fire for a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years leading up to that. When he told us, I was bummed out, kind of taken by surprise.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like once I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I'm actually not surprised when I really think about it. I go back and
Mm-hmm.
see videos, and the fire and the energy wasn't there on the performances, like the live show. He's a sick bass player. That'll never change.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, he was just in a different place, and he was about to get married, and it was just his time.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's back into music, and he's building a studio out, and he's playing with some other artists and having jams and shit. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So before, I want to say, when I was working on the YouTube series and I was preparing for the episode I did with Tropidelic at the House of Blues, I was preparing for it. So I made a visit there before we actually did the filming. And one reason why I was also there was to catch your guys' show over there last year where you performed at the House of Blues Foundation Room. And you guys, absolutely rocked. I love it. Everyone loved it. I love the vibe there. And I noticed when you really get into it is when you put the Bon Jovi wig on. And I noticed in your other photos you put the Bon Jovi wig, but that's how I know you're really into, rocking out. So I'm just curious of where did that idea come from?
So dumb, dude. It's so dumb. Like
It's awesome.
it's meant to be dumb. That we all know it's dumb, right? But that's why we do it. We do it
Yeah,
because we want to do something different. It's because people just go to shows and bands do. There's bands that have their thing. They do some cool shit, you know.
yeah.
And there's bands that joke all the time. They build their show around comedy, you know.
Mhm.
Less Than Jake is one of them. It's like they're great. They're sick band, but Roger and Chris together are insanely funny, you know,
Yeah,
pulling shit out of their asses, just talking. And it's not
yeah.
the same show every night. It's always just something new. Chris is just very fast.
Mhm.
Um, so for us, it's like it's our personality. It's how we are. We're goofy guys, and it doesn't need to be all pro all the time. You know, it's like we want to put on a great show. The production value, I'm always thinking about it. What can we do to be better? What can we do to like, we have geysers going off with lights, and
Mhm.
we have these light boxes we step on. The light shoots up.
Mhm.
What else can we do that's like zero cost? It costs like $18 for that. You know what I mean? Very
Yeah.
low. And we've got our tour manager, Alex, he runs all that production shit for us. Like he does all the geysers, he triggers them. And,
Okay.
um, I was like, what other job can I give Alex? That's very easy to do, you know?
Mhm.
And he'll just come on stage and throw it on. I'll do the guitar solo. I was like, it'd be super funny if, I do a guitar solo with this 80s metal wig on and
Mm.
I'm standing on the light box with the light shooting up at me. You grab my fan. We all have fans on stage.
Yeah, yeah.
And you hold it up like I want everyone to see that you're holding this fan. I
Yeah.
want you to
Yeah.
please and get it 2 feet from my face,
Yeah.
up like over your head,
Yeah.
and let the hair blow. You know, with the light and the
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah.
It's all 80s sounding because I got this delay and shit. Like that's what I wanted, and we get that shit every night, and it's so dumb. And I see people pull their phones out. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's on our story every night. Somebody like a
Yeah.
couple, and it worked. The effect worked.
Yeah, yeah.
We just haven't done away with it yet. And Alex is like, should we stop doing that? Or, like, no, he loves it. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's your thing, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't want to get stale. I'm like, but bro, there's still plenty of people that are coming to these shows and haven't
Yeah,
seen.
yeah. Yeah.
And there's some people that expect it now. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh man, I hope they do that at Reggae Rise Up.
yeah, and that's just yeah, absolutely. There's only certain nights where it doesn't happen because some reason.
Yeah.
We're playing with bands. There's a lot of gear on stage, and he can't make his way up there. Very,
Mhm.
like, oh, don't worry about it tonight. Stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's anything to be entertaining and
Mhm.
keep the fun vibe. Like I said, it doesn't need to be. I like to go out there and look clean and have a solid, tight show.
Mhm.
I want it to look and sound great, but you got to have those moments where it's just not all about super pro all the time.
Mhm.
We're human, and I think people appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I really love about your band's music, it's very unique. I mean, being a big reggae fan myself, I mean, that's how I kind of guided myself to hearing your music. But I guess you mentioned a lot on your podcast that you're primarily a punk rock band, if that's correct. And you mentioned, yeah, we put reggae into it, but you're a punk rock band first. I know that gets a little confusing a lot, which I understand. So I'm just curious, if you could make up the title of your own genre of music, what would it be?
Uh, let's call it beach rock
Beach rock. Okay.
because I like, um, if you're into our band at all, like you just know the imagery is pretty constant.
Mm-hmm.
We're always trying to cast like a vibe, like we're on vacation. Like
Yeah.
when you listen to
Yeah.
big vacation, and we are we are we're taking you away for a little bit. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of beach imagery, a lot of palm trees, a lot of, the pineapple thing has become like really associated with us lately.
Mhm.
All the Ballyhooligans and the Ballyhooligans Facebook page are always posting pineapple pictures, like random, like
Yeah.
people, pineapple haircuts and pineapple novelty items. Um, it's all about fun and positivity, and I write some dark shit, but I always try to put a positive spin on it. And something usually I can write about dark stuff, but put happy, kind of upbeat music to
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
dynamic. But yeah, so it just got to, I was like, reggae rock is the typical term, and that
Mhm.
was when we started. Like nobody knew what to call it.
Yeah, yeah.
We weren't the only bands, mixing punk and reggae, but um, reggae rock was kind of the thing, and now it's more becoming American reggae. So it's more of an umbrella where you have different subgenres of the
Yeah,
American.
yeah.
So you got your roots reggae, you got dub, rock reggae, pop reggae, poly reggae, which is like the Hawaiian style stuff.
Yeah.
There's all kinds, and I got to a point I was like, yeah, I want to brand my own thing. I want us to
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
I'm going to stick out a little more, and just beach rock, Maryland beach rock. I think is just a great tagline.
What you mentioned about your music, you're thinking of beach a lot, which being from South Florida myself, I mean, every time I listen to your music, especially when I first started, I want to say the first, I think it was the Detonate album I listened to. And I mean, the girls album was more like a pop reggae vibe. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's one reason why I really loved that album, because it was definitely like every time I listened to it, I always thought of the beach. And wherever I went, like for traveling to prepare for the other episodes, even though I'm away from the beach, I always listen to that album because I feel like I'm at the beach whenever I listen to that music.
Yeah, it's in our stories every day. I'm always I see people tagging us in their stories, and it's always like somebody playing beer pong or a gathering of people hanging out, drinking beers,
Mm-hmm.
people on a boat, people on the beach chilling, people sitting by the pool. It's just become, summer is our biggest time of year. Like
Yeah, yeah.
our streams go up in the summer.
Oh, nice.
It's yeah. I mean, we're surpassing 500, 600K monthly listeners on Spotify in
Mm-hmm.
by August. Um, it's just clear to me that we've made our mark as far like our message, um, our overall vibe. And I'm not even the type of guy that I'd rather be on a beach. I don't always want to be on a beach. You know what I mean? I'm not like a Jimmy Buffett, type of dude. I'm
Yeah,
not even
yeah.
the worst type of guy, but the idea of being on a beach or chilling is just so nice,
Mm.
drinks or whatever, just sitting there with your girl or your guy or whatever, just chilling. It's
Yeah.
just I don't know. I like the overall vibe, and yeah, Maryland Beach rock.
So you write a lot of the band's music, and you mentioned it in your podcast also that you write a lot of love songs. So I'm just curious, do you get any pushback from the other guys about the music that you write and asking you to write, outside of love?
Um, no, not really. I mean, sometimes they'll pitch things like, "Hey, we should write about this or something." All
Mm-hmm.
right, cool. But for the most part, like I don't get a whole lot of ideas. I just write. I just go
Mm-hmm.
like not getting things pitched to me is what I mean. Um, so I'll just write whatever I'm feeling. And love songs, I always felt like I was a hopeless romantic back in
Mm-hmm.
the day. Like always, like I was making girls mixtapes, and
Yeah.
like that's real. Uh, I was always the wallflower type where I didn't want to ask a girl to dance or something. Like
Yeah.
those. The idea to me was always sweet of like you know taking a girl out and giving her flowers and doing all.
Yeah.
I don't know, just and all that cheesy shit. But
Yeah. Old
um,
school. Yeah.
so it's easy to write about, and it's easy to write
Mm-hmm. Of
about a bad relationship. I've had a few, and a lot of people have had bad relationships, and
course.
um, I can write about good relationships, write about good stuff. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
more fun to write about the dark stuff,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I mean, it just really depends on how I'm feeling, and I don't ever force it. And sometimes the riff, like the song, will tell me what to write about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's a lot of techniques you can try. You can literally write out a 10 or 12 song track list, imaginary. That
Mm-hmm.
would just be cool. Just write out song titles. Oh, that's a cool song title. And then write based on the song title. You can
Mm-hmm.
set up key. My management pitched me keywords. They're like, you should write a song about like smoking weed, fucking hanging out, girls in bikinis, you know, uh, all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Citation, like getting caught by the cops, stuff like that. I wrote Blaze This Weed, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, all right. And, you just come up with a word cloud, just that all associated, and then just start writing lyrics,
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of things. But yeah, the only time that I've had pushback on lyrics and things was it was that song Ross Vader on Girls, and um, also on Girls, Gone Girl. Those are songs that were completely different, um, content wise. The music was the same. I already had the music, but the lyrics. So for Gone Girl, originally, that wasn't about a guy being insecure and like meeting a girl, having a great time, and then never seeing her again,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a cool premise. And I think the song's great. I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had to rewrite that from the ground up because it wasn't even as simple as like change that line. It was like, you need to rewrite this whole song.
Hmm.
Originally, uh, it was about a couple that was getting divorced, and there were kids involved, and how to handle that.
Hmm.
Um, and it was mostly written from the man's side, because I think men get fucked over a lot in
Mm-hmm.
the divorce area. Um, and it was kind of like coming from that, and it was based off my experience of my parents
Mm-hmm.
putting my brother and I in the middle at the time, and it took them 4 years to get divorced. And it was just a constant back and forth, and we were supposed to be my dad's house every other weekend, and some weekends he wouldn't want to take us, and then other weekends she wouldn't want to let us go. Like it was just very juvenile, and they handled it very bad,
Mm-hmm.
very badly. So I wanted to write about that. Like, what if I was in this situation? What would it be? What would the worst situation look like, and how would I deal with it? So that's what it was about. It was very
Yeah.
real and dark content. And my management was like, dude, like, it's not that it's a bad song. It's just that, like, you're going to put people in a weird place, man. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
so fucking what? I was like, I got
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
I was like, who fucking cares? Like,
Yeah.
this shit's for me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is for anyone else. And if people don't want to connect to it, they don't have to. They can skip, they can go to
Mm.
the next one. I
Yeah.
don't, that's one thing that, like, as a songwriter, man, you got to hold on to things. And I ended up being like, all right, fuck it. I caved.
Yeah.
We wrote this song in like a day, and it takes me a lot longer than a day to write songs typically,
Mm-hmm.
because we were there in the studio recording. I had to do it. I had to get it
Mm-hmm.
done. So rewrote that shit to be Gone Girl, and I still think it's a great song, and I'm proud of it. But I really would have liked to tell that story,
Hmm.
and I just feel like, maybe in the context of that record, it it wasn't it wasn't correct, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
that song wouldn't have went on the album.
Yeah.
I just would have been like, because we had a couple songs that didn't go on the record. Yeah, Stop Ruining My Life was one of them. It ended up on Detonate. It
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't right for the record. So you kind of got to figure that out later. You just record and you figure it out later. The other one was Ross Vader, where it was kind of all I could think about was, okay, this song's about partying. Like, The song's about being at a party, and everybody's like, "All right, where's the whiskey?" Like, there's
Yeah.
a like in my head, it was like the '90s or the 2000s where there was a live band playing at a party. It wasn't a DJ.
Hmm.
Live band. They're at a party. Shit was going off. Everybody's taking their tops off, and there's
Yeah.
fucking people in the pool, and they're wrecking their car into the pool, and like people are jumping off the roof and shit. Like that in my head. That's kind of what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And I had like I don't know, like a verse written. It wasn't complete. I remember like in the booth uh, at Sonic Ranch singing what was going to be the verse, and the whole room in the control room was sort of like that. I
Hmm.
felt, eh, man, I don't know if like you've ever had people tell you your art's not good,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like it's one thing when like a fan does it, but when the people you're working with are saying
Hmm.
it's not good, you're just like, oh my god, it infuriates me. I can't help it. Look, it's one of my weaknesses. I get super pissed off because I'm very passionate about what I do,
Yeah.
and when someone's telling me it's not good or it's not right, um, I'll take fans all day saying it sucks. I don't give a shit,
Hmm.
But when it's like your bandmates and your management and things like that, it's just like this could be better. It's like it's hard to take that criticism,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I try to be open minded and um, let people speak, and I try to make it a democratic process. But I feel like I get really weird about it because I'm like, I'm the one spending all the time writing these songs. I'm not getting songs pitched to me.
Hmm.
What is, and then all of a sudden you're going to make me change it like at the last minute. Like now
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to leave the booth when I was about to record this song, and now I got to go rewrite. And that's a whole different podcast. But like, um, so we had my buddy Greg Shields from Cashed Out, who's a
Hmm.
Florida. Um, he was out with us, and we were at the time. I remember a couple weeks before we went in the studio, I was like, "Hey, let's call Greg because I don't have a lot of lyrics written. Like I got
Hmm.
half the album, and we need to get this done. We got 15 days.
Hmm.
Got 15 days." And so we flew Greg out, and he was just there with me writing lyrics and stuff. So he wrote a lot of lyrics on that record. He wrote the the 100% of lyrics for Ross Vader.
Okay.
It wasn't called Ross Vader. It was called Rasta Blood. That was the name of the demo, Rasta Blood. I just like the sound of it, Rasta Blood. It's not
Yeah, that
metal.
does sound pretty cool, man.
And so we were like, oh, we gotta rewrite lyrics for Rasta Blood. What's it gonna be? And I
Yeah.
just I like threw a tantrum and was like very upset and pissed off, yelling at everybody.
Hmm.
Uh, and one of the great things about blocking off time like that, 2 weeks in a studio, is you can do that. You can freak out and leave for 3 hours, 4 hours, and it's not a big deal.
Hmm.
Whereas you're paying for time, like we only got like 4 hours left. You can't just take off. You got to just get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice kind of spread out. But so Greg took the night, and I think he got some ideas from the guys, and they pitched some ideas, and he wrote these lyrics, and the next day he had a whole song written.
Hmm.
So we did it, I guess, that night, and I was all mad doing it too. I was all like, I was in the booth just pissed off because it's very frustrating when I don't know the lyrics, and especially when like Greg and I have different writing styles.
Hmm.
Uh, we connect on a lot of things, but there, when we're co-writing together, there's a
Hmm.
lot of like, I don't want to do that. Nah, let's not use that. Like, because I want the song to be like genuine and really come if I'm
Yeah.
singing.
Yeah.
So it was very hard for me because I didn't know the lyrics and I was getting mad about that. I was fucking up the rhythms. He's like, no, sing it like this. I'm like, God damn it, So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's that fun story.
Something I heard in your podcast just recently that I guess something that you all did a couple of years ago, which I thought was pretty funny, and it's kind of a funny story too, is that you all opened up for Snoop Dogg a while back. So how was that experience?
Man, that was great. It was very, very last minute. We were, I think it was like a week before, maybe not even a week that we
Hmm.
found out we were doing this. We were playing a place called Ziggy's in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was just a club. It's closed now, but there was also a Ziggy's in Winston Salem, North Carolina, a couple hours away, and owned by the same people. And they didn't have an opener for Snoop.
Mm-hmm.
Since we were already locked in for the Wilmington one, and we had off that day. It was like a Thursday. We had off. It was like a Wednesday, Thursday or something. They're like, hey, we don't have a band. You guys want to come open for Snoop Dogg? And we're like, fuck yeah, we do. There
Yeah,
was no
yeah, yeah,
thought. It was a
yeah,
no.
yeah,
It wasn't like, really? Is anybody going to like that? It was like,
yeah,
yes, we're doing this. Like, really,
yeah.
totally doing this. And so we did it. We went there, and it was like rainy and cold, and it was like a weird. The weather sucked, but it was
Mm-hmm.
outside, you know. But yeah, they had this big stage set up, and there were some DJs and like a hype men and stuff. And it was obviously a very different demographic than we're used to playing to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of his fans, and we were like, well, this could be cool. We could be playing for a bunch of people that never heard us before, and that's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
we had very few fans there that already knew who we were.
Mm-hmm.
It was entirely new. There were a few thousand people there. Um,
Wow.
and so we didn't get to meet him. We were hoping we'd get to meet him.
Oh
He's
man.
45 minutes late for his set. We were already done, and he was taking forever. And we had to get out of there at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
We ended up catching most of the set, and then we had to take off before the crowd, did. But like, it was great. It was really funny too because we were already like, I mean, I was a little nervous. I was a little bit anxious,
Mm-hmm.
and man, the guy that brought us on stage, he was like, I guess he didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So he's the whole time he's like DJing, he's hyping it up. Yo, Snoop Dogg's coming out later.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, all right, y'all, give it up for Ballyhoo. And he's like, wait a second. And it's as if it's like a movie. It's as if somebody whispered in his ear, like, oh, it's this rock band from Baltimore. He was like, he literally in the mic, he was like, rock music? This ain't no fucking rock show. And the crowd was like, ooh, like that.
Oh man.
The worst intro of all time.
Yeah.
Way to lay it on.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was oh man, but I don't know. We went out there, and I think we opened with like Jameson and Ginger, or
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it was actually pretty good. I mean, it's on YouTube. You can watch the show. Like
Okay.
somebody videotaped the whole thing, and it's pretty good from what I remember. We had some people going, and it wasn't. I've had worse experience playing shows in our own genre. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I had worse shows doing shows for other bands in our genre.
Yeah, yeah.
He did at Snoop Dogg. It was good.
Yeah.
So we called it a success, and it was one for the books, the history books, and yeah. Well, I'm happy that we did it.
It's a shame that you didn't get a chance to meet Snoop Dogg, but
We were hoping. I was gonna weed everything. Like I gotta do.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing to do with Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, totally.
I also want to mention, because you talk a lot about video games, and the other guys also in the band are big gamers. I think you talk about you and your brother are fans of Castlevania and awesome game series and stuff. And you mentioned some video games that even I'm like a big fan of. So I'm just curious, so what are some of the best video games you've ever played?
Oh man, I mean, Symphony of the Night is my favorite Castlevania game. I don't say it's the best. It's just my favorite. It is. It's definitely one of the best. Absolutely.
That was the Game Boy Advance one, right?
No. It's actually the PlayStation.
PlayStation. Okay, the guy with the long hair.
Yeah, Alucard.
Yeah, yeah.
First time that they did, they made it like an action RPG, because I am not a fan of RPGs. I don't like turn-based combat. I don't like, the strategy part of it. Like, I just do it. Okay, your turn. Oh, miss, and then okay, now they're gonna hit me like double.
Yeah.
Like I don't like that. I'm not a fan. So, action RPG. So it was like upgrades. I get new weapons.
Mm-hmm.
My suit, my uniform, my whatever my outfit can upgrade it. I can make my defense better, make my attacks harder. Like I got spells, like this,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's like a hack and slash. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
that's probably my favorite type of game.
yeah.
Uh, Along with I would say right along with like Resident Evil, which is like action based survival horror.
Hmm.
The later ones after like four is where it started getting more action based, uh,
Okay.
quicker. Whereas the first few were more about the ambiance and the vibe and scary and
Hmm.
scares and things, and just feeling trapped and alone and the lack of abundance of ammo and things like that. Like
Oh yeah,
ammo, you're
those
like,
were
oh
the
my god,
worst.
yeah. And then the first couple of Resident Evils, you had to have an ink ribbon to save your game on a typewriter.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you were out of ink ribbons, you couldn't save anymore. So it was just that. It was that thought. And then Resident Evil 7 um, brought back the absolute horror. Resident Evil 7 is the scariest Resident Evil game
Okay.
out of all of them. Like, hands down, easily. Uh, it is insanely terrifying. Like, and I did the VR version at my brother's house over Christmas, I think.
Hmm.
That shit is like, I was already freaked out. Like, I almost kicked a hole in the TV at a hotel room one night playing regular, with the
Yeah, yeah,
controller.
yeah.
As I brought the PlayStation on tour, and dude, I played VR, and it was. I mean, these people are right in your face, and they're, oh my god, you get attacked
Oh
by like a
wow.
chain. Oh my god, it is. You're in the house. You're looking around this house like Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. You
Hmm.
wake up at one point in the beginning of the game. You wake up because you get knocked out, I think. You
Hmm.
wake up and you're sitting at a dinner table in this nasty kitchen dining room area, and you're looking around the table and there's this family, and over to your left here is like this old woman in a wheelchair. It looks like she's dead, and
Hmm.
they're all talking to you. It's, oh my god, it is so scary. Um, Resident Evil 2, the remake from last year. Oh my god, that was Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 were my favorites. I think RE4 was my favorite forever until I tried to play it again and realized how clunky it was.
Hmm.
Very clunky when you play the GameCube version. So Resident Evil 2, they remade it and they built it from scratch, added some things to it, and they changed the way it looks. Like, it's more of an over the shoulder style,
Hmm.
as opposed to like a fixed cam where you're walking around and then you hit a certain area, and then the camera changes, which was great.
Hmm.
But man, RE2 is just so awesome and fun and beautiful, and it brought back so many memories. And then they just did the Resident Evil 3 remake, which the more I get into it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be over soon. It's a very short game.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool, very cool. Uh, Uncharted 4, one of my favorite games.
Hmm.
It was it just looks amazing. The acting is superb. The voice acting. Um, it's one of those games where you can play through it and it gets challenging and hard, but it's not insanely difficult to where you throw the controller and you never want to play it again.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like games like that. I like games that I'm having fun playing.
Hmm.
It's just the right amount of like puzzles and difficulty that I can get through and beat the game and explore the story. And there's like 25 chapters or something to play in that
Oh
game.
wow. Okay.
Um, so yeah, amazing game. Um, Super Mario World on Super Nintendo, one of the greatest games ever made. Like, it's perfect. Like, they don't need to change anything.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
They're gonna remake it one day, and I hope they do, because I would love to see it in like a new graphic style.
Hmm.
But don't change anything about the levels. Don't add any weird mechanics. Like, leave it the way it is.
Hmm.
Great game.
Yeah.
What about you? What are you into?
Oh well, I actually am a big fan of the turn-based RPG games. Like that's my main thing. I like Final Fantasy, all that stuff. But I do understand like it's slow, and I've been made fun of a lot too. Back in my day, my friends always say, "Yeah, like you gotta wait for your turn to hit the person." But yeah, I was a big Resident Evil fan. I think I played all the games all the way till I think Veronica, codename Veronica, was that was the last one I played. But the Resident Evil games get deep, man. There's backstory there. Like you think it starts with just the first one with the mansion thing and Umbrella Corporation and all that stuff. But boom, the second one came out, which that was a big game changer right there when the second one came out, and boom, the zombies take over the city. And I would say Resident Evil 2 was my favorite out of that series. Claire, and the I forgot
Claire
the
Leon Kennedy.
oh yeah, and so you could what I thought was cool, like if you beat after you finish, I guess, one person's story, you kind of can go back and play again, but it's a different. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, because there's that tyrant, there's that like white tyrant in like a suit or like a rain jacket or something. He just chases after you, like just slowly walks to you.
Mr. X. There's a So the great thing about that game is it was 2 discs, and it was
Yeah.
Leon A and B, Claire A and B. And if you let's say you start with Leon A, once you beat it, you play Claire B, and
Hmm.
then you go back, you start
Yeah.
up Claire A, and what you're doing is you're loading from the same save file, so it's all continuous. You start, then you Claire B, and then Leon A, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that at some point in the game, they cross paths. So this happens a couple times. They'll cross paths, and then when you play the other person's B or A game or whatever, uh, that same thing happens, right? But like for instance, you can go if you're Leon and you find the Uzi, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Take the Uzi. It's kind of like it's like one or the other. You can take the Uzi or you can take the extra inventory sash or whatever. Um, whichever one you take in the next game, the B game, that item is gone, and you have to take whatever was left over. It's
Oh
very cool.
man.
Yeah, they mixed it up, and then each one has their own sort of, like, you go through the same areas, but it's a different part of the area sometimes, or there's a completely different part that the other person didn't see.
Hmm.
Resident Evil 2, the remake, they expanded on that. It's like very, man, I played that game through, I think, 5 times, I think.
Oh wow.
I beat the original art Resident Evil 2. I beat that at least 6 times over and over. I beat it in an hour and 10 minutes with no saves and like no damage. I got that good at it.
I just remember used to playing it, especially at night. Like that's kind of for those who don't know, like are familiar with the Resident Evil games, it's like watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, and if you're playing it at night too, and I'm talking about late at night, no one's around, those zombies can scare you. Especially the worst one is if you're opening a door. So like if you're opening a door and the scene just shows of just the door opening, sometimes 2 or 3 zombies will pop out right out of nowhere just in front of that door. That was always scary. Or there was always something popping, like dogs would jump out of the window
Yeah.
or hands would come out of the window. Those
Yeah.
were scary, man.
The thing too is that, like, you have to run back and forth and hit the same room a million times in these
Yeah.
games, for different reasons. You gotta find, I gotta find the key, I gotta go
Yeah.
across the, whole place and find a key and bring it back. Well, like, when you make your way through the mansion, you're taking out zombies and dogs and things like that.
Yeah.
And so you get used to running around and just kind of being free once you've sort of taken everybody out. But
Yeah.
then once you do certain things in the game, you're triggering things, and you go back, and where typically that you ran through this room 100 times has been empty. Now there's a couple more zombies or something.
Yeah.
You're like, ah, fuck, and it just ruins your day. You get
Yeah.
popped in the neck or something like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what's so great, man. And they really did such a good job with the remake, man.
Hmm.
It's so good. Everything, the sounds, the way it looks, like the story, the voice acting is incredibly better than the originals. The acting was terrible in those games, but
Especially the first one, man.
no, the first one was so bad. Don't open that door. Like,
Yeah.
literally says that. It's like Wesker or somebody is like,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't open that door. You're like, what?
Yeah.
What? They let this go? Like, it wasn't even like a take 2? Like,
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about your awesome podcast that I mentioned a few times already called Tales from the Green Room. You started the podcast as a way to help people start a band, but I've listened to a lot of the episodes and it's kind of changed along the way. And you really opened up yourself personally on it. You mentioned a lot of personal things that you experience, and I love the podcast and hearing the episodes. And I think you being open is awesome. But I kind of feel like your therapist of just hearing a lot of like stuff you open up about, and you get deep, man. You really get deep. I admire the fact that you really get deep into your podcast. So I'm just curious of what got you so comfortable in doing that.
That's funny. I've never thought about my listeners being my therapist. That's actually, because I always thought of things when you say things, oh, music is therapy and music, it's for me to get things out. But you don't think about your listeners being the guy sitting on the chair. You're laying on the couch and they're taking notes or whatever.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mother.
Tell me what hurts you.
Yeah, what is it? What hurts
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You just get comfortable, and especially when it's by yourself in a room, and you're recording and whatever, there's a microphone in front of you. I don't know. You're alone with your thoughts, unless if it's just you. If when I have the guys on, it doesn't really go. I have another artist. Sometimes it depends on what they're talking about, but you start to think about things and you kind of go down a rabbit hole in a way. I've talked about my parents and losing them and what that's been like, and I don't know. I guess I feel like sometimes I wonder if I'm getting too dramatic, if I'm, speaking too much on it or going too far with it in my descriptions and things like that. I can go pretty deep, but then it's like, I know from experience, just from people telling me, at the merch table, that either the songs or the things that I'm talking about on the podcast, like they really affect them in a positive way, even something that is dark and scary or hard to deal with. People like to know that they're not alone in that. And so it kind of alleviates that feeling of like, am I being too dramatic? There are people that it's doing good for them, I guess. And it's kind of nice to know that I'm a part of their growth or their healing.
Yeah.
And also, it is very much in that way. I'm going to think about this completely different now that you said that, about the listener being in it. Is that, talking, most people know that just talking about things can help. And I get depressed a lot. I've never been diagnosed with depression or anything like that. But I know it's there. A lot of people that haven't been diagnosed, it's there. Never had medication or anything like that. One of the good things is I've never had to do any kind of medication or anything like that. So just talking about things, it really gets it off your chest. You put it out in the air, and it's kind of like sometimes I want to write a tweet. Like I don't really get political. I don't really like to talk about that shit.
Yeah.
So I do this as, like I said earlier, I do see it as like kind of a vacation, a way to get away from things.
Yeah.
Sometimes things really hit me. What people don't understand about artists is that we live in this country too, and like things affect us, and we have opinions on it. And while we have the job of sort of taking people away and being entertainers, sometimes it helps for us to talk about things too,
Yeah.
So like, I'll make comments. Sometimes I'll make a tweet, and I use Twitter for that. Usually Instagram and Facebook are different. Facebook is just a shit show. But like, sometimes I'll type something up and then I'll delete it. And it's the equivalent of that technique of writing something down and crumbling up and throwing it away, or ripping up and throwing it away. Same idea, just the digital version. So like, I'll go to type something up. Oh, what, blah, 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 and I try to be eloquent when I don't just like rattle things off. Try to have facts and things to back it up. I'll go and I'll, right before I hit send, I'll be like, is this good for anybody? Is this good for for me to get this out, and what am I going to reply to? Like,
Yeah.
some people will agree, some people won't. How am I going to, what is this going to look like? I could see it all in my head, and sometimes I'll just hit X. I'll just get rid of it,
Mhm.
and I don't think about it again. Um, so, when it comes to talking to my parents or anything like that, I don't know. Maybe it's helping people. Maybe it's helping me. It's just easy. I've been uh, I've been doing this for a long time. Just I've been on a stage, for nearly 25 years.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an actual stage, in front of people, or in my studio on a microphone. You know, just kind of that.
No, I mean, I gotta say, thank you for just being so open. I mean, before I started, listening to the podcast, I listened, big fan of the music. Like I said, I was just binging the music. And I mean, a lot of your music is, I mean, you mentioned like beach rock, just, living that beachy vibe and just having fun. But you really show another side of you on the podcast. And you get deep and you talk about issues that other people experience, even issues that I've experienced. I mean, I've also experienced like parents going divorce and going through those stages, but you're really relatable. Like you really open yourself up and become a relatable person to your listeners, your fans. I mean, I feel like I can relate to you a lot of the things that you mentioned. I feel like it's kind of helped me therapeutically.
That's great, man. That's wonderful to hear that. Those are the types of things that I'm talking about when I say, the hearing the stories from other people, um, saying that whatever I've said or whatever I've sung about is touching them in a positive way, making them feel better about their situation. It just kind of, it's more validation for what I'm doing. And,
Yeah.
especially when the podcast, when you think about the podcast, like, it's just something I do for fun. And I don't know, just like making things. And it was just an obvious medium for me.
Hmm.
But, it just, what I told you earlier is you think about who's going to want to listen to me talk, for an hour. No
Yeah.
one's going to listen, right? Who cares? And then I hear things like that. It's like, oh, okay, so this was a cool, this was a good
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah.
You and so yeah, it's like more validation. So yeah, thank you. I'm glad it's being a positive force for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
So
Oh,
I think it's great that you're doing this.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so another thing I noticed on your podcast, you do a lot of impersonations, like funny impersonations, and you talk a little bit about voice acting in our previous conversations. So I'm just curious, like, did you ever thought about being a voice actor yourself?
Uh, I had definitely thought about it in the
Yeah.
past. Uh, Acting was something that I don't know if I'm a great actor, like a good actor, like if I'm a natural or not.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Donald is really good at, like, he would be a good actor, if he
Okay.
was, um, and voices and things like we've always done dumb stuff like that. We used to make videos when we were kids, like teenagers. Like if we didn't have YouTube, YouTube was 10 years away at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have a means to get it out. There was no distribution. It was just on the VHS, and no one ever saw it. It was just us. When we
Mm-hmm.
laugh or like watch it back, and so we would make skits. We would do skits of, like, we'd have like a comedy show basically, and just make.
Mm.
We had a couple of them. It was like Dickin' at Howie's. That was a little. That was a few years later with me and my other friends and Donald when we got a little older. But yeah, we would just goof off and make dumb sketches, uh, and film them. We did like a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers skit,
Mm-hmm.
like, uh, we did a job interview skit. There was just dumb shit, and
Yeah.
I remember trying to write scripts and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, we were already doing the band well into that at the time. We hadn't been on tour or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
things. But yeah, I was writing like scripts and things for like funny shows and stuff that I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do, and we did some projects for school, some video projects for school, and it's crazy to think like where it could have been, where it would have taken us had we had what kids have now. Is you got kids that are making millions of dollars on YouTube and
Mm-hmm.
TikTok and stuff. So yeah, that was always like a passion. I always loved filming things and editing. I love video editing,
Mm-hmm.
and so cartoons. I wanted to draw cartoons. Then I realized, like, fuck that, I'm not drawing cartoons. It's going to take forever. Like, I'd rather
Yeah.
be, you know. But voice acting and things like, yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to do if the opportunity came along.
I can see you being a voice actor for maybe a video game, like maybe one of the future Resident Evil games, or
Yeah, don't open that door. Like,
you can do better than that.
oh man, I'd be like, no, hey, dude, don't open that. And scene. You know what I'm
Yeah. Crushed it.
saying? I'm going on break.
So you're starting to do some solo stuff. I noticed too. You came out with your EP, and you recently came out with a single as well. On top of that, so what made you want to do the solo stuff outside of the band?
I mean, just my love for music and, again, making stuff. Like, I just like, it's when you have all day. I don't work a normal job.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, um, you have all day to just sit here and just do different projects, and it's great too because obviously when I work on stuff for other bands, like producing or mixing or whatever, like I have deadlines and things, but
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things I've learned is, like, especially with mixing and like working on music, you get ear fatigue. Like, you got to know when to take a break or
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
The project will suffer otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Same
Yeah.
songwriting, with many things.
Yeah.
Um, and so if I'm like, ugh, I got to get out of this for a minute, because if you're too far in it, you stop losing their perspective. You can't hear what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I'll save, quit, and I'll grab my guitar and I'll start riffing around or singing a lyric, or I'll open up my own project and make a demo. Or,
Mm-hmm.
then I got to a point where I was like, I'm going to do this tour with Eric Rachmani. That was in December.
Mm-hmm.
It was coming up, and I was like, man, I should really have something of my own. And I've got some songs that are never going to be released by Ballyhoo, recorded or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had a couple songs that we did record, like Smash and um, Sorry Bro, which are two songs on my EP,
Mm-hmm.
actually recorded for the Girls album.
Hmm.
But I didn't like the way they turned out, so I stopped. We got everything recorded, and then we had some mixes going and everything, like when the album was being mixed. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, just stop with that one. It's not. It needs something. It needs work,
Mm-hmm.
wise. Or we didn't nail something like I wanted, or something like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we just, we recorded stuff since then, and just didn't look like it was going to happen. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just use these songs and make them acoustic and whatever. That song, "All I Ever Want" is the first track.
Mm-hmm.
That was originally called "All I Want," and it was recorded for the Cheers album, our third record, back in
Hmm.
2007 when we were recording that record. And we didn't use it on the album, and obviously it's been 13 years since then. So I was like, this song's never coming out of the Ballyhoo's track, so, but I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. I thought it was a good song, so I reworked it and put on a thing and released it. I didn't get the CDs until after I got back from the tour, which sucks. uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I was just I released it on Spotify and everything. I don't know, man. It's just something different and something of my own. It's
Mm-hmm.
not associated with our record label, like Red Coast Records, and we have our own label. I just wanted something of my own. The other thing too is, like I was saying earlier, like I've said this in another podcast, like side hustle is so important, especially for times like these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
never like start your side hustle now.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Now's
I
the perfect time.
perfect time to learn
Yeah.
a new
Yeah.
skill, or or hone a skill,
Mm.
work on your recording skill, like whatever it is you're doing, like uh, paint more, um, like work on your side hustle, because when times like this happen and you can't work, which a lot of people can't, like unemployment like doubled again last week, I think it
Oh
was.
wow.
It was like another 6 million from the 6 million that were already out. Please verify that. I just heard that. Um,
Okay.
I know a lot of people aren't working right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all the time, bro. I lost my job. Um, so like work on your side hustle and be ready. I started my YouTube channel in January of last year, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already fully into it. People expected content from me on that platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was I worked up to my 4,000 hours in my monetization. I got it back in December. Here we are several months later, and I'm making money off of YouTube, and it's just extra money for my,
Yeah.
you know, when I not being able to go play shows. So same with the podcast. It's like I make a little bit of money from that. It's not a ton of money, and
Yeah.
YouTube, especially YouTube, like is awful for. It takes a long time to like make.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, putting out my own record. I got like $250 or something like within a couple months of
Mm-hmm.
it's extra money when you need it. You can always use it. Um, the more revenue streams that you have in place, it really does start to add up.
Mm-hmm.
And as a songwriter, Spotify and Apple pay shit. Like all the streaming services, they pay shit. It
Mm-hmm.
sucks, but that's the way the world is. So keep cranking out songs, build your catalog,
Yeah.
put out more content, and eventually it does add up. You know, um, we're lucky to be doing this way before this went down.
Yeah. Well,
You
thank
gotta
you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
you've shared a lot of wisdom throughout this conversation that we've had. So we're at a recurring segment that we have on this podcast called Words of Wisdom. So I'm going to ask for some additional wisdom from you. Share with us a quote that resonates with you and tell us why.
There's a good. I had to look it up because I don't want to say it wrong. There's a couple kind of quotes actually, but they're in the same wheelhouse, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is it? Hold on. There's a bunch of them on this page. I should have copied and pasted it. It's the one about. Oh, I'd rather be Kurt Cobain. I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then another one is the worst crime is faking it.
Hmm.
That's Kurt Cobain's words. And like you, the more that I've done this, the more that I've, especially the social media stuff, the Instagram and the YouTube, and connecting with people on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis. Um, the more that I've done that, and the more that I write songs and see the reactions, I've learned that uh, be real at all times. Don't don't try to fake anything. There is that fake it till you make it, which I think has some value to it. It might be it's an anecdote that can make people feel good about what they're doing. Just say, here, this is it for right now. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
It's not the worst advice, uh, but people smell bullshit. They see right through it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I were to be writing songs about smoking weed all the time, which I know it's a hot topic, it's
Mm-hmm.
something bands have made money off of that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they're also living that life.
Yeah.
They smoke weed every day, shit like that. It's like what they write about. You write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
If that was me, it would come off probably not so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got a couple songs about smoking weed and stuff, but like marijuana laws, for instance, is a song about advocation and just more about the legal side of it,
Mm-hmm.
how bullshit, which is now becoming outdated, which is great. I love that because
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
um, And then Blazes Weed is more. It's called Blazes Weed, but it's about partying in
Yeah,
general.
yeah.
I've done plenty of partying. Um, but if I was like, oh, smoke weed every day, shit like that, like it wouldn't be real,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And people would see it and be like, ah, this is a fucking joke, you know. Um, there's a reason why certain bands um, that don't necessarily have pop radio hits, uh, there's a reason why they're still able to sell out big theaters or amphitheaters or
Mhm.
put on their own festivals, or or have a giant crowd at some festival. There's a reason for that,
Mhm.
and it's probably because the music is deep. It cuts deep. The words are strong and visceral, and you're talking about real things. Like, I think party songs are amazing. I think they're valid and important. I think everyone needs a good party song,
Yeah.
which we've written plenty of those. But you need to talk about the things that affect you in a real way, the things
Mhm.
that matter, the things that
Yeah.
people, because we are all creatures of emotion.
Mhm.
We deal with many different things every day, and some
Yeah,
people have
yeah.
really, really fucking bad, you know. And you, I feel like artists need to talk about that,
Mhm.
those things that happen to them, those things that are hard to talk about, and it's different levels. You can. It's up to you how much you want to let go and put out there, but um, you know, in the sense of creating community through just real life and not trying to sell something, sell a product. People jump on things because they want to be connected to it. I think
Mhm.
they want to be a part of something, and that's why pop singers, like Rihanna and people like that, might be great singers and things, but they're not necessarily writing their own songs, and that's
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
worst either. It's not the worst thing either. But the way pop is, just by definition, popular music,
Yeah.
pop culture, here and now, not yesterday, not
Yeah.
tomorrow, it's right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not cranking out the hits and staying with that, pulling off the same bullshit over and over again.
Mhm.
People are going to forget about you and go on to the next one. That's what pop music is.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. It's not where I live. I don't write music like that. I don't approach like that. I have melodic things and a lot of radio vibes, and I get that. But uh, you know, it's those people are forgotten about. It's called fair weather. You get these fair weather fans that just forget about you, and that might be their jam, but they're on to the next one, and
Mhm.
a band, uh, a band like Bumpin' Uglies, for example, or Tropadelic, they're writing real shit that people care about,
Mhm.
and it's not some flashy shit, and those guys put on good shows, and it's not necessarily a huge production. Those guys, those guys aren't rich, and they can't afford to have a big crew and like
Yeah.
big light show and stuff. No, man, it's about the music and it's about the connection with the
Mhm.
audience and making them feel a part of it. And I think when you're speaking on real things, uh, that's what will last. Honesty is so important.
Based on everything you're saying, it really shows in your music as well. At least on the girls' album, there's a lot of party music and just feeling good and just having fun and doing things. But you get deep too. I mean, you talk about like heartbreak in your other songs, just being angry or frustrated about everything that's going on in your life. So it's not all like just having fun and just going out and doing fun things. You get deep and personal, and other people can relate to things you're saying outside of the having fun and hanging out, and it's hanging out with friends. Sometimes you just want to be alone and just be with your thoughts.
Yeah, I've written written plenty of songs like that,
Yeah.
about depression or how I handle it. Man, there were some scary days, like just in the last year or two, that I've just like I didn't want to do anything, and I felt like it was like very dark, and I didn't want to. Like, it was scary because I didn't see a way out of it. It was very
Mm-hmm.
scary. I was like, holy shit, like what is happening to me right now? Like, why do I feel like this?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm glad that it only happens every now and then. I had never really felt like that before,
Mm-hmm.
who knows what it was, but you got to write about that stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody out there that needs it, like I feel like there's, as much as I say it's for me, it's about me, fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
Not that I say it all the time, but like, you know, I think there are people that need it. And maybe I do have like a duty, there's a job for me
Yeah. Yeah.
to, uh, to address those things,
Mm-hmm.
help someone not feel alone, you know,
Yeah.
if we can do anything, I think we're all good at something, and maybe I'm good at just making people escape and feel better about themselves for a little bit, and even if it's in the smallest way, it's not like I've had guys come up to me and say that I saved their life.
Yeah.
We're going to kill themselves. And how do you process that?
Yeah.
All I could do is hug them. Like, this is in person. They're telling me this. I had a guy
Mm-hmm.
give me a magnet, bottle opener magnet of him and his, I want to say his team, his battalion. I don't know. Fuck. I'm not good with military terms, but, him and his buddies got hit with an IED
Mm-hmm.
side of the road, and they were Afghanistan somewhere, I think. And like everyone died but him,
Oh
and
wow.
he's been fucked up about it since. And he was going to kill himself, and our song came on. He was watching YouTube or something at the time, and our song came on a loop or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he told me. It's on Ricochet that we have, and he just stopped.
Hmm.
And what do you say to that? How do I even process something like that?
Yeah.
And that's happened a couple times. Somebody say, "You stopped me from committing suicide." What? You know?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't know how to handle that. I just kind of give him a hug, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a bit of a, a job there for me.
No.
If it can affect someone in that small way or that big way, but even if it is just that sliver, just that little bit of making their day a little bit better, you know, I'll keep doing it.
No. It's definitely worth it, man. And just like from a personal standpoint, I've had moments that I've been down or depressed or angry through stuff that I've been through, and yeah, definitely listen to your music has really like made me feel a lot better or was a distraction from all that. But yeah, it's authentic.
Thanks, man. I'm glad I'm just glad it connects, and I'm glad, it's making you and others feel good. It's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Howie, this has been such an awesome conversation that we've been having. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to share with all our listeners?
Thanks for having me. And yeah, subscribe to my podcast, Tales from the Green Room. Check out my music. You can search Howi Spangler all over the platforms, the music stuff. I got a YouTube channel, Howi Spangler. Go subscribe, sub up, mash the like button. Oh man, just check out Ballyhoo wherever you listen to music, and we always got stuff going on. I'm always working, and hit me in the DM, man. I like chatting with fans and stuff and making friends. So
Yeah, and you're really good at interacting with your fans. That's one thing I've learned, and you mentioned a lot too in your podcast, and I've learned a lot from just listening to your podcast, and I try to do it myself, is really engage with your followers, your fans, interact with them, like all their comments, comment back, message, all that stuff. But yeah, that's one thing I can really say that I've learned a lot from just your podcast alone, but one thing that really resonates with me is interact with your fans or your followers, and it's been working for me.
yeah, it's the person that left you a comment on your YouTube video or your Facebook post or whatever, wherever you're at. Um, they took a minute or two to write that, for
Hmm.
you. and just to tell you how it makes them feel or whatever. And I feel like you owe it to them to acknowledge them and hit them back, even if it's a heart emoji.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't expect you to write a long message. They really don't. And I think some people get that wrong. They think it's going to be like a lot of work, which it is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
When you make a post, the way the algorithm works, like say Instagram, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
you have to make yourself available. When you make a post, you want to post at the right time of day, and you have to do this by looking your analytics and your insights and see when your posts are doing better, see what posts are doing better, and make more content like that. I mean, again, that's a whole other podcast, but um, uh, make your post and make yourself available for the next hour. Don't post and then forget about it and go eat dinner and do it. No, when
Mm-hmm.
you go to make a post, it's serious. You got to be around and checking it every
Yeah.
couple of minutes to see who's responding, because uh, once the more action that your post is getting,
Mm-hmm.
the more Instagram pushes it out, and that's the same with YouTube. The more it looks popular, they see it as popular content, they're going to push it out further. Otherwise, they bury you. That's how the algorithm works.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're commenting back to people, see if you've got 10 comments and you comment back to each one of those, that's 20 comments on an Instagram post.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, shit, you trick the algorithm. You're like, oh, this
Yeah.
is legit. We should put this out so more people see it. That's what happens. And not only just for the algorithm's sake, obviously, but for the people that took the time to write, you should hit them back. And it doesn't need to be some long, thoughtful, meaningful sentence or whatever. Just say, "Oh, thanks so much, man," or like hit him with a heart, or the classic this guy right here, the two hands up, like, yeah, raise the roof,
Yeah, yeah.
like.
Is that what that's for? Oh, I thought it was like praise. Like,
Maybe I mean, to me, it's all the same.
yeah,
Praise, raise the roof. It's like, oh shit, son, like that
yeah,
kind of. Thank you so much. That's what it's like. But anything, hit him back with anything. Just hit him back. Just acknowledge their existence. Acknowledge that you saw their comment, and it means something to you, because that is how you create a genuine, organic relationship. People want to feel connected. They want to feel like they can reach you. In a social media world where DM is right there, people can hit that message button, and if you're not checking your DMs and you're not answering people back, you are doing it wrong. You know, we the whole thing has been flat. Like the whole playing field is flat now.
yeah,
The You have to stand out more than ever now, because there's so much shit going on. Anyone can distribute anything at any time for free
yeah,
on multiple platforms. You have to be standing out, and if you're someone that is making any kind of money uh, from a consumer, you have any sort of consumer base, you have any sort of like popularity, and it's like uh, you're benefiting from that in other ways. I don't know what that would be: money in your pocket, or
mm-hmm.
got noticed for something else and you're doing something else. It's because of people. It all starts with the fans. It all starts with the people. You can
Yeah,
make all the shit you want, but if people aren't paying attention, it doesn't matter. Like, you
yeah,
know, make your art, make your art for yourself, and like, I'm glad that's up there. I
yeah,
can look whatever I want, right? But if you have a goal in mind of like growing it, and there's no growth if you're not engaging, and there's nobody to engage with. I
mm-hmm.
mean, like, you have to like acknowledge people, and I am more than happy to say what's up. I've had threads, like a full thread with people in my DM. Just, I don't want anybody to feel like they're just a number, or they're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like, oh, cool, man. What's up with you? How you doing? Shit like that. Like,
yeah,
just
yeah,
talking to normal conversations with people. And it's not even about music, like,
yeah, yeah,
I don't know, man. It's just, that goes so much farther than being an asshole, for one, or just being, the guy, like a celebrity or something. I don't know. It's
mm-hmm.
and people appreciate it more than you know, and they notice when you don't reciprocate, when you don't, if you don't show any signs of gratitude, people know
Mm-hmm.
that. People pick up on it, man. You have to be aware. You have to be aware of why you're on your soapbox, why you're at any level. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we all start from nothing. Um, Brandon, I keep using him as an example from Uglies. He'll be on Facebook doing live for an hour or two, and he's got 350 people watching him, concurrent like, at one time. That just didn't happen. That's because he's built it for
Yeah.
several, just going live constantly, creating a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and interacting and being a good dude and aware that people want to reach and interact with him, and he gives it to them. He gives them what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not because he has to, it's because he likes doing it.
Yeah.
We could go on forever about this shit.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
talking about
well, I feel like you've filled this podcast with so much of your knowledge, man. Like, and this is pretty much like almost over 100 episodes of knowledge that your our listeners can get from your podcast. That's being condensed down to this podcast, and we've been talking for almost 2 hours now, and I appreciate every minute of your time that you're spending right now to join on this podcast. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, man. You really have shared a lot of your wisdom for our listeners.
Oh man, dude, I'm happy anybody wants to talk to me at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a dude from Havre de Grace, Maryland,
Yeah,
you know, and it's just, I'm just here doing stuff, and people see value in it.
yeah,
I appreciate that. And, it just means a lot that you'd want to talk to me in the first place. So, I'm
dude.
happy to.
Pleasure's all mine, man. And I definitely, I know you guys were gonna perform at Reggae Rise Up, but since it's got delayed, I hope to catch you guys over there, and I definitely want to see another show again from you guys soon.
As far as I know, we are still good for it's October, right? October
Yeah,
2nd.
yeah,
Uh, we're still good for that as far as I heard. I mean, we got nothing going on. So,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, getting to Florida is like nothing. It's like 1,000 miles, dude. It's easy,
yeah.
easy.
Well, you're doing those live shows too, and I saw like some posting. It was hilarious. I think you were playing the guitar, and you had like, I don't know how you did it, but you had like Dono playing the drums, and it was like in your pelvis area.
Oh yeah, no, that was from our last stream.
Oh, okay.
Our first big stream after this all went down. The guy working the cameras, the producer there, switching cameras. I think he knew what he was doing. They all know they had a laugh about it.
Yeah,
Like, oh, look at this shit. This lines up perfect.
yeah,
And he just like dissolved, but didn't dissolve all the way.
yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
50-50 blended. And so it looks like my brother's like beating on my nutsack with his fucking hilarious. Yeah. So I was like, I got to put that up on the internet.
Yeah, yeah, that was a hilarious video. It took me a second time to realize what was going on, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was hilarious.
I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I knew right away. I was like, I have that kind of mind. That's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Laugh at yourself though, man. It's like you gotta be able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're awesome at that, man.
Oh, dude, I put that up instant. I was like, dude, I'm putting this right up. Like, this is great.
But yeah, and I'm gonna put all the information that you mentioned on the episode notes, so like our listeners can catch all the links to Ballyhoo's fan pages, the Instagram, and all that stuff, especially to yours and the podcast as well. So I'm gonna put all that information out there. But Howie, man, thank you so much for doing this and having this long, awesome Irie chat with me, and best of luck on everything, man.
Thanks a lot for having me, man. I appreciate it. You take care of yourself. Stay
All right.
healthy.